You are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the voice of the Knights.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored. This is a very special episode, I want to point out to everyone. We are so honored to be joined by one of our most esteemed alumni members from our corporate communication department and the Nightly News Media Club. We want to say a fond hello to former Nightly News President Jenelle Dulack. Jenelle, welcome back to the show that you helped to establish as one of the most important communication pieces in all of Central Penn College. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, thank you. I love being back here.
And we are going to talk about all kinds of different things with Jen. Of course, later in the show, we'll be here with the entire episode with Jen. Later in the show, we're going to talk about the wonderful things that she has done since she has walked this stage at Central Penn College. But the first segment, we're going to talk a bit more about some of the fond memories that she had from her time here. Also being joined by Nightly News correspondent Noah Lopez. Noah, welcome back to the show in your own right.
Yes, I'm here again.
Well, hey, you know, this is part of what you want to do, and
I love this show.
You enjoy being on the show, and maybe someday this will be your show.
No, impossible. It couldn't be.
Well, again, Jen, I want to really thank you for joining us today. So one of the things that I wanted to do before we get into, you know, all of the amazing things that you're doing currently with Fox 43, I want to talk a little bit more about your experiences. And so you graduated in summer of 2022, so just shy of 3 years it's been since you have been a student here. So I really am curious about some of the fond memories that you had, some of the things that you remember most, and, you know, some of the things that even today that you still think about on occasion. So let's just start off at the beginning. What's one of the first memories that you had here at Central Penn College that you still look back on?
Meeting somebody who is still one of my best friends. I still talk to Nia Millwood all the time.
Well, you tell Nia I said hi.
I absolutely will. Yeah, me and Nia became roommates not long after meeting, but I still remember one of the first days I walked into class and I had to do a project and get a partner, and she had wheeled herself over to me and was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And that's, how the story began and been ever since.
You know, Jen, one of the things that I hope you don't mind me pointing out, but you did not come here as a communication student. Do you want to share a little bit more about that, whatever you're comfortable with sharing?
What?
Yeah, no. So I actually started as a physical therapy student, and I realized very quickly that that was not for me. I'm not somebody who's really good with rote memorization, and I had always been a communication student at heart, even if it wasn't what I was intending on learning. Like when I was in high school, the way I describe it is that a camera found its way into my hands because I was doing ROTC and somebody was like, "Hey, do you want to record our drill team?" And I was like, "Sure." "Do you want to write reports for our newsletters we do weekly?" "Sure." "Do you want to send out PR emails to other units?" Absolutely. And I didn't realize that was what I was passionate about, even though I was doing those things for 3 hours after school had ended when I was in high school. So I came here, I started doing physical therapy, and I quickly realized that it wasn't what I was super passionate about. And I had a conversation with you, Professor, and I realized it's what I was actually destined to do. It's what I love doing. I wake up really early in the morning for my job currently, and I don't even bat an eye at the thought of that because I come to work excited about how awesome it is to have an ever-changing world and to be able to discover it every day.
I always remember that first conversation because I knew you from, I don't know if I had you prior to that or if I just had seen you, and I knew that, this happens a lot. And I share this in class too. I was not always a communication major. I went to Slippery Rock University. I was an IT major. And I, just much like you, my first 2 semesters really thought to myself, this is not what I want my future to be. And I said this yesterday in class, sitting in front of a computer all day. The irony here is that
You still do it.
I still sit in front of a computer most of the day, but in a different way, and of course I do get the interaction in class with students, but I can't even imagine. And of course, I'm sure you would have been wonderful at that because I'm sure you'd be wonderful at anything you set your mind to.
Well, thank you.
But because of what happened after that in your time here in the Nightly News, the litany, I mean, literally off air, we just talked about a dozen things just off the top of my head that I remember that you did. And we'll certainly talk about some of those, but gosh, what an interesting twist of fate, if you will, to bring you. And that just goes to show you, anyone out there listening, students especially, college is not necessarily a straight line between 2 points. No. Sometimes there's some zigging and zagging that happens, but that's all part of the process of learning about yourself. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. You will always find your way to where you're supposed to be. Even if you're not intending to be there in the beginning, you'll make your way there. And that's exactly what happened to me through this process. I was granted so many wonderful opportunities by being in this program and being in this school that I've found myself to be on the trajectory of what I hope to be greatness. And I don't think that those possibilities would have been open to me if I had gone this other path that I knew wasn't true to myself.
And this is why I talk to students all the time about passion and enthusiasm. So many people enter into college thinking, what job can I do that's going to give me a safe, comfortable living?
It's not all about the money, man.
And you know what? I hate saying that because I understand people have bills to pay, their student loans, the whole 9 yards. I get it. I'm paying student loans back currently myself after I just finished school. That all being said, if you're passionate about what you do, you're not gonna ever be looking for work for long. You know, and I think you're a really good example of that. Well, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we had discussed, some of the fond memories from the nightly news, and then we can, of course, talk about the college as a whole. The first thing that I really recall that I really want to talk to you about is the CPC Film Festival that we did here. This was an undertaking that you took as part of Projects in Corporate Communication, and you had actually produced several films. So I would love to talk about these films, but then we can talk about the film festival in general and about the successes that we had with that. So let's start off. The first documentary that you made, how did that all come to be?
That was Mr. Sharky Shark, right? Yeah.
Mr. Sharky Shark.
Yes, it was Mr. Sharky Shark.
Okay.
I remember one day I was driving around.
Is that on YouTube? Because
It is.
we gotta put that along with it.
It is. You can use that as B-roll for your podcast.
There you go.
Mr. Sharky Shark.
But yeah, so I was driving down in downtown Harrisburg, which is funny enough where I live now. But I saw this man dressed as a shark, and he was roller skating around the city. But one day he was eating dinner or lunch with his wife outside of a restaurant. And I pulled my car over, fully, screeched to the side.
Oh, jeez.
Ran out of my car, and I was like, "Hi, can I get your contact information? Because I just want to know what's going on." And he was like, "Total."
What?
Yeah, he was like, "Sure, yeah." So I took a picture of him, got his contact.
Wasn't
info.
this during COVID too?
This was during COVID because it was outside dining, and then I think I came back to you, and we were discussing documentary making, and I was like, I think I found the perfect subject.
Mr. Sharky Shark.
Mr. Sharky
Is he
Shark.
still around?
Not as the character he was. So
He's not a shark anymore?
no. So for a while he was a robot.
Oh, okay.
We gotta find this
You
guy.
didn't know about this?
Who is this guy?
Oh yeah.
Who is this guy?
He's anonymous for a particular reason, which
Okay.
he discusses in the documentary if you watch it.
We will.
But so yeah, he was a shark that was trying to raise money for people during COVID. So people would pay him to take pictures or just interact with him, and then he would take that money and give it back to waitresses who were, really great servers when he would go out for lunch. That's what he was doing when I saw him.
Oh,
was
that's awesome.
paying a waitress. So yeah, he did it for a multitude of reasons, but he ended up kind of leaving the shark costume behind for a little while, and then he picked it back up when the fire
At Midtown.
Exactly, and he wanted to help raise funds for that. So he started. He wanted to raise spirits and make some money for the people who used to have stalls there, and he was selling these little robot figurines for a period of time. And if you did the robot dance for him, he would give you one for free.
Oh,
That's
no way.
great.
Yeah, and but he's been on hiatus again. I'm not sure what his next
When
stunt
will
will
he-
be.
Iteration.
When will he
yeah.
don the suit again and save the city?
Yes, yeah, but
It's like a superhero.
Yeah,
He
what
is.
the heck?
He is. He shows up when we're in a time of need. And when I was doing my Harrisburg Smiles project, which I'm sure at some point we'll talk more
Sure.
in detail about, but I just asked for him to be my first person in that series. And me and him sat down and had a long conversation about family history, inspiration. I mean, we sat and talked in front of the Capitol building for 2 straight hours, and he finally
hours.
he took his helmet off for me.
Well,
and
he
I
had
saw
it on the
face.
whole time?
Yes, I saw the face behind the mask, and
wow.
it's nice to know that he's a real person who has real passion for the community.
So that was only the first documentary that you did. You went on to do another one. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, so that one
You
was...
actually did 2 more. I'm not,
Yeah.
We're just going in chronological order.
Yeah, so that was Betty White Castle. That was when I was interning at Penn Live, and they said, you can do anything you want. Something that I deeply care about is LGBT rights and advocacy, and my favorite form of art on planet Earth is drag. So I had met Betty White Castle, who is a art teacher by day, drag queen by night. And I decided to interview her about her lifestyle, and that went on Penn Live's website, which is something I'm very proud about.
Is it still there?
I believe so.
That's awesome.
I think it's on their YouTube channel still, too.
And we did one more.
Yes, that was intentional communities. I like to deep dive into the weird side of the internet sometimes. I'm sure you do too, no?
Oh, no.
And
No.
and so I had
Chicken Jackie.
Chicken Jackie. I did watch the Minecraft movie. I will not lie. But so me and I think it was Nia, were just kind of scrolling on the weird side of the internet, and I found out about intentional communities, which is groups of people who decide to live together for any particular reason. So maybe they're all vegan, maybe they're all Christian, maybe whatever. This one in particular, well, actually I did two. One was vegan Christians, and another group was people who live together on one plot of land for environmental purposes. And so I talked to a man who is actually the owner of the HMAC. I'm not sure if he still is now, but he was then. And this other group of people who are very committed to their faith and love animals, and just discussed what it means to live communally like that.
So all of this was just pretty much all on your own time. Like, and you did so much of this. You were talking about an internship that you had at Penn Live, all of these different steps, but much of these were just passion projects, which I appreciate so much. So what happened was you were in a class called Projects in Corporate Communication, where every student had to think of some type of grand project that they were going to work on. And one of the things that you came up with, which is still legendary in my mind, was the CPC Film Festival, where not only did you invite people to show their documentaries, I showed my Final Out documentary, you showed your different documentaries, but you also tried to get students here on campus to come up and create their own shorts, documentaries. And then we had voting and judging, and we had awards. It was really spectacular, and I still remember how wonderful of a day that was. But there was also a group of people in another class that I had that had created some documentaries for that situation as well. So tell me a little bit about how that all came together, and what are some of the fond memories that you had?
Yeah, so by the time I had created my third documentary, me and Professor Miller were discussing ways that we can showcase some of the work that not only I have done and you have done, but what other students are capable of doing outside of the communications department. So we decided to do this film series that ended up being way bigger than I had ever anticipated it being from the beginning. I even went to like Janet's class, and I taught a bunch of students that were from all across the board. I mean, Homeland Security majors, IT majors, business administration, and taught them how to create their own 2-minute short films based on a real or fictional story. That was a very exciting experience, just to be able to teach what I had learned over the course of making those 3 documentaries. I think that once you know something well enough to teach it, you can now consider yourself relatively an expert. So,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
so that was fulfilling in for me in that way, but it was also fulfilling to know that other people got to experience this form of art that I love and appreciate so much.
Of course, I loved seeing your films on the big screen, and of course, I loved seeing everyone from my class, and there was some amazing stuff. But the creativity of some of the students who you in hindsight, mentored through this process, I still remember some of these films because they were so... It was so much. It was like a gift that you opened that just was like, oh my God, this is the most insanely beautiful and wonderful and heartfelt and emotional 2 minutes that I've ever had in my life.
You guys make me wish I was there. What the heck?
Jump in a time machine, man.
They're all still on YouTube if you want to go on that
The
time
movies are
machine.
up there? The films?
They're on my YouTube channel. I have them all uploaded.
I'm going to have to go back and revisit
I want to
these.
see these.
One that I remember, Amber, she's a physical therapy assistant major, and she had done one where she was discussing her own anxiety, and she was cutting herself out of string.
I still remember
what?
that. That's
Cutting
one of
herself
the
out of
ones-
string?
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that I really remember. And of course, we'll put some of these, at least the link to Jen's YouTube channel along with this podcast. Jen, of course, that was wonderful. And I can't even thank you enough for all of your efforts with that. I also want to talk a little bit about the Nightway. This is something that, while adjacent to the Nightly News, was run by former theater director Janet Bixler and you. And so talk to me a little bit about how you entered into the Nightway and what your legacy was with that project over several years.
Yeah, so this is something that I remember Brian Christiana, I believe, was kind of a person spearheading this with Janet. And when I realized this was happening and I knew that I could be part of it, I immediately wanted to join in. I love video editing, and I think that's where I began the entryway into being part of the Nightway. But I just kept gaining more and more interest in creating a better product for the community. And so I was pitching stories to Janet. I was writing stories. I was recruiting people to be anchors, again, across the board. I had IT, I had Homeland Security people coming in to do this. So it was just a really fun time to be silly in a controlled environment where we get to share information with our peers. Because I was referencing this before we had started the podcast, but the people who were in theater didn't know what the sports kids were doing. The sports kids didn't know what was going on with the physical therapy students. The physical therapy students didn't know what was going on with the theater kids. And it just was cyclical in that everybody was showing up for each other only if they knew what was going on within their group. So the way to intermingle is to inform. And so that's exactly what we did. We had everybody submit information from different clubs or groups. That's how the Black Student Union ended up becoming one of the biggest clubs on campus at that time. And it was because they were spreading information so much. And if you don't do that, then, that's why clubs have only a few members. That's why clubs die off, is because they keep to themselves and don't share the opportunities that they have with other people in the college.
That's so profound, Jen. And I got to tell you that I some of the episodes of the Nightway, I mean, we just kind of went back and watched a couple, but so creative, so unique, and it's sorely missed here on campus. It's not something that was continued really much after you left, and we miss it very much. And there's what's to say. Even Noah, I know that you've pointed out that you would be interested in, not necessarily in the same spirit, but bringing back that video news piece. We have the capacity right here in the studio to do so.
I mentioned that I'd be okay, like, instead of an audio news brief, we did a video one instead. Like, at the end of the term, we just did a video. And, there was already a script that I have to read, so instead we put that into a teleprompter and we just record it. I don't think that'd be too hard.
Hey, the world is your oyster, my friend. I mean, I as Jen will tell you, like, yes, we are advisors. Yes, we try to guide and shepherd the group. But at the same time, we're unbelievably open to suggestions like this. There's no reason why we can't do that. Yep. So let's start devising a plan on how that can happen.
Could happen this term. Who knows?
And statistically, media continues to loop itself. I mean, we started with radio where it was exclusively audio. We went on to TV where now it's primarily visual. Then people started moving to podcasting, which is audio. And now people want video podcast, which is back to video. So
it was video and audio. Now we're combining.
Yeah, so if you just diversify what you're capable of doing, I mean, you can do anything, really.
I love to hear that. So, Jen, I give you a ton of credit for everything that you have done with the Nightway. It was, I'm sure it's an interesting trip back down memory lane when you go back and you watch some of those. But there was a few other things I wanted to talk about, too. You'd mentioned one of the most memorable stories that you ever did for the Nightly News had to do with the Enola Miller House. And I do want to bring Noah in, too, because you want to talk about full circle. All of this was part of the East Pennsboro Historical Society. Now, Noah's actually doing an internship, much like you did with Penn Live, with them. You want to talk about going full circle. I mean, this is amazing. So tell us a little bit about what your initial interest was in that story and sort of the finality of it.
Yeah, so this was my first foray into investigative journalism, and that was very exciting for me. And to think back on this, I'm very proud of what I was capable of discovering. So I'd found out that the Enola Miller House was going to be moved from its previous location, just up on the hill near the college, to a different location because there was going to be proposed luxury housing. And I'd also found out that there was a grant that was given to Enola for the Adams Rickey Park to create a walking bridge from one section of the park to the other, so that people wouldn't have to walk along the side of the street to get from one soccer field to the playground, right? Yeah, that was the proposed plan, but it had never been done for multiple years, and I was wondering what had happened to this grant. And so I was making tons of phone calls. I mean, commissioners were probably so mad when they saw my phone number pop up on their phone. Like, I was ringing everyone. And I remember just getting all this information and piecing the story together, and just being able to see something in your community and realize the impact it could have and informing people before it does, that is what news is all about, because you don't want people to be blindsided by what's happening. Where did this money go? Why is this historical building being moved? Why is there suddenly a Wawa there? Like, what,
Did you know about the Wawa when you were
No, I was told that it was going to be luxury housing.
Oh, that was part of it.
Well, yeah, that's all I was told. Thank you, commissioners.
Wow, they didn't even tell you about Wawa.
I know.
And it's hard to say. We don't want to speculate on when that announcement may have been made. But what I think is so interesting. So Jen, you are from this area, right?
No, I'm originally from New Jersey.
Okay, that's right. Yes, you're from New Jersey. This is what. So Noah's doing a historical project for us, and we just did a podcast that's going to be coming out here in a couple of weeks, and we talked about how Noah went to East Penn High School, and now goes to Central Penn and is a student worker and is helping to preserve our history, and now is interning at the East Penn Historical Society to help preserve and amplify their history, of which you were helpful and integral, at least from a Central Penn perspective, to open this story. I mean, frankly, there was hardly any news, if any, about what was going on there, and you brought this to the forefront. I mean, is that something that you think about? Obviously, you mentioned it was one of the most memorable stories you had.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that I'm very proud of. Like, I can think about that ghost story I wrote. That was a really fun one. I think about the service animals on campus. I think about that one, right? The last story I wrote, Mantras to Make It. This one in particular is so important to me because it is a perfect example of the kind of thing I'm capable of doing now. It was the early stages of like legitimate news, and not to say anything else is illegitimate.
I was going to say,
but this is like communal news, not just campus news. So it was big to me at the time, and it still is now.
How did you know where to find these contacts of all these people, or how to search for the information? What led you on that trail? Where'd you start?
Well, like I said, I saw that this construction is going to be happening, and when you start to question what's going on, you start to question who's in charge of these changes. So I remember at one point I looked at the newsletter for, I think the East Penn newsletter or the NOLA newsletter, and in it mentions I think it lists a bunch of contacts for the county. So I was just going down the list. I was emailing people, calling people. I mean, all you can do is ask, and if somebody answers and says, no, I have nothing to do with that, okay, thank you for your time, hang up, pick up the next phone call, right? Like, you just try and try and try until you get the answer you're looking for.
It's pretty awesome.
I love it. Well, I would be remiss without bringing up something that means so much to me. One of the final things that you did here as the president of the Nightly News was the West Shore Connect video that we did. You were actually the director on that. I know that it was one of the last things you did, and you even said that you wish you could have gotten more involved in it. But does that ever, come on your radar as a positive memory of your experience here at Central Penn?
Of course. Something I think about a lot with that is the relationship I was able to build with Dylan in that time. Dylan is a fantastic person, a fantastic artist and creator, and being able to talk through with him, okay, how do we want these visuals to look? How do we want to pan from, the opening shot, right, of it panning from the trees to the people or people to trees, like just discussing what could be considered menial, what becomes the opening shot of this documentary. I mean, it was just so fun to explore this topic with Dylan and with you and figure out the best way to share it.
I must say, I am just honored to have my name in the credits as producer here, to be with such greats like you and Dylan. It really meant the world to me. And what to me was interesting about that, we had talked prior to this about collaborating together on a project because you'd done all these films, and I wanted to work with you on something. And Dylan, was here right around the same time as you, and this just worked out perfectly because West Shore Connect came to me and said, we'd really love if you could do something with us. And I approached you, I approached Dylan, and it all worked out well. So I just always say I'm just honored to be the producer there that I was able to get on that. But Jen, as I think back, I can't even really put into words how valuable you were as part of the Nightly News in advancing our mission. We still to this day are one of the biggest clubs on campus. We continue to do, and continue to expand the things that you helped to create. I wish we could do the film festival more frequently, but the film series still continues, of which you had a big part in presenting But you had the opportunity to present Hairspray. That's something that is so memorable. You did the film festival. You had amazing stories that you did. You helped the West Shore Connect PSA. And this is probably just scratching the surface of the things that you did just with us. So I just have one more final question for this segment, and then we'll take a short break. It wasn't just the Nightly News and the Nightway that you were a part of. How you were involved in the number of clubs that you were, I still to this day don't know how you did.
I don't understand it either. How
I
do you
don't
do
either,
that?
if we're being so for real.
How do you do so much stuff at once?
This is my question.
Yeah, like can barely do my classes and my job and all my stuff at once.
Tell me seriously about
Yeah.
how you found the time and drive, not even just the time, right? Because if we reorganize our schedules, we all have the time. But how did you find the mental fortitude to be an amazing Dean's List caliber student, to be a president of the Nightly News and the Nightway, and then still get involved in other things on campus?
Again, like you had said before, is passion, right? Like if you wake up and you're excited about what you're going to be doing that day, then you don't even think twice about how many things you have on your plate. I woke up and I was excited to be an RA. And then secondarily, I was excited to be a student. And then I was excited that I get the opportunity to be involved in all of these things on campus. If I had gone to another school, would I have known my professors as closely as I did with you and Olympi? Absolutely not. And would you guys have been able to allot me the time and the energy to work on these documentaries or do the film festival or be part of the film series? No, probably not. And so it's a mix of caring so much about the community that this college has given me, and then also having people who care just as much about me in return. That's what it was. Really.
Well said. Well, we're going to take just a short break, but we are going to come back and we are going to talk about all of the amazing things that Jen has done since she walked across that stage when she finished up here back in 2022. So stay tuned.
I'm Dylan Bowman, former president of the Nightly News, and you're listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Back here with you with the Nightly News Podcast. We are on our second segment with former Nightly News president and just general all-star, Jenelle Dulack. This is the first time I've had to have her on the podcast in many years, and I must say it is wonderful catching up and taking a walk down memory lane. But the thing is, what you're really here to talk about is what you have been up to during these last couple of years in your time. We're also being joined by Nightly News correspondent Noah Lopez. So I want to talk a bit about after you graduated. One of the big things, and I know that we mentioned this in the first part of the podcast, but your Harrisburg Smiles project was one of the first things that I remember post-graduation that you got involved with, and you got some press on that for this project. So number one, tell us how all this came to be, and then sort of tell us what the aftermath was with this Harrisburg Smiles project.
Yeah, so there was a period of time where I left college and I was feeling a little bit lonely. I think it happens to most college students.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're leaving an environment that is so active and you're surrounded by people all the time, and then suddenly it's just almost nothing.
I want to pause 1 second. I tell people this all the time. This is one of the things that probably people get sick of hearing me say, is I push people to get involved on campus because when they graduate, these opportunities to be on a podcast or to write for the Nightly News or to do Nightway or any number of things that you can get involved on campus, they go away. It's not to say, listen, if you still wanted to write for us, we would gladly publish. You want to still be on the podcast like today? We would gladly have you. But when you graduate and you move on, it's almost like, well, I don't want to go backward. I want to try to find myself moving forward. But the problem is those opportunities don't always present themselves to you on a silver platter.
Yeah, and so when they don't present themselves to you, you have to make those opportunities, and that's exactly what I did. So I realized, I still do live in Harrisburg, downtown Harrisburg, and I realized I don't know a single neighbor. I don't know anybody walking down the street, but it seems like everybody kind of knows each other, and I wanted to change that for the better. So I decided to just leave my house with my camera, tap some random stranger on the shoulder and say, "Hi, do you mind if I bother you for a second?" And they'd say, "Sure," or "No, get away from me."
Did you have a lot of that?
Oh, absolutely.
Get away from me, weirdo.
Think about the reject therapy I had to go through with all those people
geez.
saying no. But yeah, I did have a lot of people say yes, not a lot of nice people. And I would just discuss who they are, what they care about, why they're in Harrisburg, anything, literally anything. And I had photographed over 150 people. I learned little tidbits like, the barista that I go to all the time. I found out that before she was a barista, she used to be a mountain climber in Canada.
Oh, wow.
What?
I mean,
How do you make money doing that?
ask her. I can tell you what coffee
You
shop
climb
she's
a
at.
mountain.
But yeah, so people like her. I've met somebody that I knew from my photography community for a long time. I found out that he had a kidney transplant when he was a kid, that still the experience of having to go through that lives rent-free in his head. I didn't know that about him before these conversations. So I had photographed headshots of all these people, and it just became this massive project that I still care about so much today. I see these people on the streets and I can go, hey, how's it going, Emma? Hey, how you doing, Carlton?
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Just from meeting them once, now they know who I am.
Unbelievable. And this is something that I'd never heard of before anybody doing. You thought, hey, I'm just going to try something to put myself out there, and then look what happened because of it. And so you got some coverage and some press. Tell me about how you went from, just an idea to something that really impacted a lot of people.
Yeah, so the funny part about this story is one day I used to ride my bike all the time. I don't do as much anymore, but one day I was riding my bike and I had my camera with me, and there was a little yard sale happening. Actually, the same exact spot I met Mr. Sharky Shark for the first time.
Wow.
Sharky Shark.
Coincidentally. And this woman was buying something, and I asked her if she'd be part of my Harrisburg Smile series, and she said no, but I actually run The Berg. I'm the lead editor. And so if you don't know, The Berg is a magazine. Most people in Harrisburg read it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's great journalism. And she was like, I would love to publish something like this in our magazine. And so we talked about it, through a series of emails, and eventually I had 30 of my portraits along with their captions and names and ages published in this series.
It's just so
You so
amazing.
happen to bump into her. Just bump into the editor of the Berg.
Oh yeah, completely randomly while I was riding my bike and doing the series that ended up getting published in her magazine.
This is what happens when you put yourself out there, Noah.
Uh,
I mean, I will tell you, though, I promise you there's not another person who interacted with your Harrisburg Smile series than yours truly. Every time I saw it, I read the whole entire thing. I always liked and commented. It was just unbelievable how this was a brainchild of yours and yours alone, and really from nothing other than you saying to yourself, I love the community I live in. I want to respect the people who I live near, and I want to, show them that it's more about just this picture, that everybody has a story. That's what I thought was just so interesting and unique. So again, congratulations, I suppose, on such a story.
Thank you.
Is it something that you're still working on, or something that you would like to reignite at some point?
I've been so busy since, so I think about a year ago is when I paused it, but I do plan to get back on it really soon. Everybody feels it. Some days they just get a little lonely, and those days are the ones that I'm like, I should get out there with my camera. I should really start this up again. So it's not dead, it's just on hiatus.
Well, which speaks to the next piece. Shortly thereafter, you became a morning news producer, editor, and photographer in July of 2023 at Fox 43.
Yes.
So tell me, how did this all come to be? And tell me a little bit more about what you said in the interview that, in your opinion, felt that cinched you for the position.
Yeah, I mean, all of the things that I've been able to do at Central Penn, I've been able to leverage in my own personal growth or in my career growth. And so being able to say to who is now my news director, to say, I did my own news series here. I created it from scratch. I mean, from writing the script to editing the video to anchoring those videos to publishing them to advertising. I mean, every piece of the process I was involved in. If I can do that for my small college campus, I can absolutely do just one of those pieces at your local news station. And that was something they appreciated. Doing Harrisburg Smiles and my own personal citizen journalism, that was something that they had respected a lot. Not a lot of people want to talk to strangers in their free time. It's kind of like an obligation of your job if you're a journalist. A lot of people don't want to they leave work and then they're like, oh, thank God I don't have to talk to people anymore today. I was the exact opposite. So they liked that. And and then my photography business was a big part of that too. Being able to monetize the quality of my work, that was also part of the equation.
Well, you end up getting the position, and since then, and obviously you're coming up on 2 years that you've been here in just a few months, which is tremendous. One of the most unique things about this specifically is a really cool thing that you do alongside anchor Gabrielle Mediac
My love.
and
I love her.
others. But I do want to give Gabrielle a shout out. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I'd love to meet you sometime.
He will.
But no, it's this On the Bright Side series that you have done. And to me, I don't know how all of this came to be, but to me, when I watch this, because I watch every one, and I'm one of your biggest fans, I'm just going to tell you. But in a way, can you see a parallel between the Harrisburg Smiles series and these On the Bright Side pieces? Does it have that same kind of feeling for you when you're doing them?
Absolutely. And you want to know why? Some of the stories that I've learned about through Harrisburg Smiles have become bright sides. So these are people, before I did Bright Side, I did a whole series on recidivism. And 2 out of the 3 stories from that recidivism series, which for people who are listening and don't know, that is the return rate to prison, are people that I met just walking on the street and saying hello. I met a pastor who helps people, once they get out of prison, to help them be better men and be there for their families and have deeper faith. So I met somebody like that. And then I've also met somebody who was previously incarcerated and was teaching, young people how to live up to their potential and be better community members. So that was all through Harrisburg Smiles.
That's amazing.
Is Mr. Sharky Shark on your Bright Side thing?
He's not on Bright Side, but he was the first person to be photographed for Harrisburg Smiles.
Oh, okay.
I do want to ask you a question, and why I love the On the Bright Side. Being in news, teaching news, working in journalism most of my life, one of the reasons that a lot of people point to not wanting to engage with news is the depressing nature of it. Certainly now, right? And we'll leave it at that. This is different. This is feel good. I mean, some of the bright sides start off on a somber note, but it's always got a positive message. When you think about this, do you think that has to do with the success of this segment because it is a positive spin on news that often isn't positive?
Absolutely. So to give you a little behind the curtain of news, right? I used to be a producer before I was primarily what I'm now, a photographer and editor. But producers are the people who are writing the stories that the anchors read. They are truly the voice of the newscast. And they're the ones who research what's going on locally and abroad or nationally and figure out the order to put that information so that people can digest it. So when I was doing that, I'm coming into work and I'm being met every single day with really depressing, hard to digest things sometimes. Having to take that and then transition out of it into, okay, and here's the weather. I mean, it doesn't feel good sometimes. So being able to do something like this with Gabby, I mean, she is sunshine in the form of a person. And so taking her wonderful personality and distilling it into, okay, how can we show her personality and the personality of the people in the community that are doing fantastic things to show that not all news is doom and gloom. So when you're creating a show, you have your A block, which is all like that local, sometimes hard to digest stuff, the big national news, and then you move into, okay, what is going on that we can celebrate? And that's usually your B and C block of your show. So we get the opportunity to take up about 3 minutes every Monday to showcase to people, hey, there's this awesome, two sisters who are creating a lemonade company right around the corner from where you live. Hey, there is the SPCA who's currently trying to raise funds so that they can create an entire new yard for all of the dogs that they cater to. Hey, by the way, did you know that, like, being able to remind people that the doom and gloom is not everything. That is not what's happening all the time everywhere. There are people who are your neighbors. There are people who live 3 towns over from you that you could learn from, benefit from, become friends with. I mean, there have been bright sides where I did a bright side about the Badana Group, which is a organization that helps teach young people and adults social skills, empathy, things like that through the modicum of play. And so they use board games and tabletop games to teach those things. And if you don't know anything about me, I am a board game fanatic, and I care a lot about mental wellness. And since learning about them, I now volunteer with them.
That's amazing.
That is something that other people get to do by watching the bright side.
Can you explain to me what your role is with it? I mean, are you fielding these pitches? Are you writing the scripts? Like, are you shooting? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so Gabby's a very busy gal, so she's often anchoring about 4 hours of news in the morning.
4 hours.
Yeah, so she gets 1 hour off, between one of the shows, and because of that, I'm often the person who's pitching these stories. I'm shooting them, I'm emailing them, I'm interviewing them, I'm editing these videos. Gabby's the one that writes the scripts and tracks them, so she's the face of our show. But a lot of the work that's being done behind the scenes is by people you would never even know were there, like myself.
That's amazing, wow. Jen. Like the fact that, listen, I'll tell you, and I tell Noah the same thing. I knew no matter what you did, you were going to be successful. You had a drive and a passion and an enthusiasm, much like Noah, that was just unbelievable. So I knew no matter what you did, you were going to be successful. The fact that you have been able to, in just such a, I know 3 years, I know even when you came in, you were like, it's been a little while since I've been here. You know what? In the grand scheme of things, yes, 3 years is a while. It's not even been quite 3 years yet. But it goes by in 2 seconds, and to see the amount of things that you have done in just a very short period of time is just a testament to the quality of person you are.
Thank you.
And the passion and enthusiasm that you have. And this is why I share with people all the time, and Noah's probably heard this so many times he's sick of hearing it. But the passion that you have for your industry comes through. One of the number one things that I've always had students tell me in my student observation surveys is that part of the reason that they appreciate what I'm doing is not because I'm easy or anything like that, but because I have passion about my industry. And I always tell people, like, if you're not passionate about what it is that you're doing, you need to find a different path.
Yeah, do a different job.
Because
it's not for you.
It's not just about money. If you're passionate about whatever it is that you do, jobs may come and go, but you're always not only going to be hopefully happy, but you're also going to find something else, because not everybody can explain and share that passion. Which leads me to another thing that Central Penn folks probably have seen quite a lot about. You were actually featured on the cover story of a recent Pendulum magazine.
I saw that.
So tell me a little bit about how this all came to be, and what that meant to you to be on the cover of your alumni magazine.
Yeah, so Steve, he reached out to me about having a article in their, I think it's their quarterly newsletter.
Yes.
And so I had written back to him a response that was quite detailed. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Writing is what I do. And he was like, we really love what you wrote here, and we think that having you as a cover story for the Pendulum would be a great direction to take the information you gave us. And so Diane reached out to me, and she had interviewed me, which is funny to be on the other end of that, and just asked me about my experience here at Central Penn, my experience at Fox, all of the above, and what advice I would give to students now. And when I was here and I would see those magazines and see other people on the cover of them, I'm like, wow, that is so cool. I remember there's one, if you open up the website, it's one of the first ones you see of somebody else who is very successful in the news industry. I believe he's an anchor now.
Oh.
I forget his name.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
But anyway, so seeing things like that, it's inspiring to students to know that there are people who have gone here and continued to live the legacy of being a Knight and been successful in what they do. A lot of people say, oh, you need to go to Temple, or you need to go to Drexel, or you need to go to some big school so that when they see it on your resume, they know that, that they're reputable because they went to that place. That's not always the case.
I 100% agree.
The things that you take with you from your education, your personal experience, speak way more volume than the name of the school that you went to. And so, yeah, not a lot of people know what Central Penn is, and that's totally fine. But they do know that I'm so committed to the work that I do, and I'm so committed to my community and news.
And to your point, Jen, if you wouldn't have gone here, you may not have had, or probably wouldn't have had, the opportunities that you did here, which allowed you to parlay that into the career that you have. So it's not just about the school. we hope all of our students graduate, walk across that stage. But if you think that it's solely that degree by itself that's going to unlock what comes next, you're mistaken. And this is why when I see really, really bright students who don't want to get involved, nightly news or not, that they're claiming that they're too busy doing other things, are really missing what college is. And it's not just the coursework. It's developing a network. It's having positive relationships with your professors. It's, learning and immersing yourself and doing things that are putting you outside of your comfort zone to give you a portfolio that when you go into that job, you're going to be competitive for that job and even get that job like you did.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, it's talked about all the time in media and in colleges themselves, but in college is where you learn who you are, what you care about, right? And so I went from being a physical therapy major to realizing, oh my God, I am incredibly passionate about news media. I didn't think that that's a revelation I would have coming to college, but it's one that I made, and I'm glad I did.
And it also goes to show you that any student out there that's thinking, maybe even if you have a hint of doubt that this is not your career path, you're living proof of how making a switch can make massive dividends.
Yeah, having a conversation with yourself about what do you really want out of school. Sometimes school isn't right for people, and that's totally fine too. But that's a strong conversation that you need to have internally and then discuss with the people you trust most. And I was able to have that conversation with people like you, Professor.
Well, I hate saying it's my job, but it is. But every single person who I talk to about this, I'm mostly just concerned about their own well-being and making sure that they're making the right decision and giving them the information that they need to make that decision. I think sometimes people make decisions without, to your point, talking to their support system, talking to their professors in their previous major or in a new major that they're interested in talking about, not having all the information to make those decisions. Well, Jen, what more can I say except I can't even put into words how proud I am of you and the wonderful woman that you've become and the amazing things that you've done, not only just in your filmmaking, in your photography business. Now you're a major part of doing some amazing things with Fox 43, you now have more covers of The Pendulum than even myself because I have 0 and you have 1. Oh. But I wanted to end our podcast today with something, hopefully a little bit of a surprise here. I would like to let you know that, and hope you accept, that you are going to be the newest member of the Nightly News Hall of Fame.
Woo!
What?
Thank you.
At the 2025 induction ceremony, which will take place during homecoming weekend.
Is she invited?
I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame, but I'm not allowed to come.
No, you're not allowed.
Noah, she's the guest of honor. Okay. We haven't released the individuals who are a part of that yet, so I will have to let the other individuals know. Some of them whom we've mentioned already on this podcast, but since you came all the way down, I thought I would send you with a testament of how much you've truly meant to this student news organization here, and I hope that you are honored by
Thank
that.
you. I am honored. Again, like you've said, the things that you can learn at this college are invaluable so long as you apply yourself. And having the opportunity to do something like that, having a news organization here and readily available for people to discuss almost any topic you want, that's the dream.
And I also just want to tell you that you would have been nominated last time, but as per our bylaws, you had one term too many because according to our bylaws, you had to have been done for a full year beforehand. So I just want to point out that you would have been in 2 years ago. But I hope that that's one of the other honors that you can hang up there with all of the other amazing things you've done.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Of course. Well, Jen, I don't want you to leave, but the poor girl woke up at 1:30 in the morning, so we're going to let her get on back to the things that she has going on. But Jen, first of all, you're always a guest of honor down here at Central Penn, no matter if you're coming for the Hall of Fame or you're coming for anything. So please always know that your legacy here is beyond words. It really is.
Thank you. And the experience I've had here will live on in my mind forever, really.
Well, it really means the world that you had the opportunity to come down. And Noah, I'm just glad that you were here just to kind of see that Jen was sort of where you are now several years ago.
I'm just absorbing here, man.
And I think that's part of the reason I know that you know of Jen through LinkedIn. And that's why I wanted you here, because I wanted you to see like all of the things that you're doing, it is going to pay off. I know sometimes it's hard to see where your life is going to go from this point, but literally you and Jen are very, very similar in your passion and your enthusiasm and your dedication and your aptitude. I mean, it's you're checking a lot of the very similar boxes. So I'm glad that you were here to get to see how, maybe all the things I say in class that you hear me say a lot, they are actually legitimate.
I mean, I'm happy that I was actually finally able to meet the legend herself. I mean, she's always talked about, but I've never seen her real face. I didn't think she was real.
Well, and I'm going to hold you to getting to come over and meet Gabrielle at some point, and then we can certainly talk about a field trip in the future.
Totally.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. Thank you to the newest Nightly News Hall of Famer, Jenelle Dulack. Thank you so much for your time today.
Of course. Thank you for having me on.
And we'll have you on again soon. And Nightly News correspondent Noah Lopez, thank you for being a sponge today, and thank you for giving some additional commentary.
Call me SpongeBob. Yep.
All right, well, that will do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. Thanks go out to Jen Dulack and Noah Lopez. We'll see you again next time on the Nightly News Podcast.